Don't you worry. It's only a story.
It might have been the most fitful sleep I've had. I remember dreaming that I was back in high school, only the school was a zoo. Classes took place inside of each exhibit. Spanish, for example, was in what normally would have been a rattlesnake's tank. Every person inside was tiny, yet I didn't find it strange. I stood outside the exhibits, assuming I must have been in the hallway. Morgan came up to me carrying a car tire over her shoulder. For whatever reason, she had blonde hair instead of black. It wasn't until I saw her beautiful smile that I realized how much I've missed her. I've imagined her so many times after our relationship ended, but this seemed to be the most unsettling of the few. She was definitely Morgan, yet she somehow wasn't. Maybe her arms were too long, or her brown eyes were more gray than brown.
Hey, Kulata.
That nickname made me feel all giddy inside. She gave me an apprehensive expression.
You can't leave your stuff lying around. It's really incriminating.
Oh, no, that's my brother's, I explained offhandedly. I'll be sure to pass along the message.
No need. You know I just hate a mess.
She giggled, throwing her locks over her free shoulder.
Unless that mess is you, of course.
I clutched my stomach and giggled at the sentiment. The tire turned into a plume of black feathers, transforming her into Jack, yet her voice still stayed the same. His bronze hair waved in the non-existent wind.
I heard from Emma today, and she's really tired.
Me too, I nodded. Who wakes up at 4 a.m. to go to school?
She's waiting for you.
I turned around, which transported me outside. The clouds stayed low to the ground, some as dark as smoke.
Hey, Penny.
I recognized Donna's voice immediately. I spun around to see her trotting up to me. She wore her usual business suit, but it was baggier than usual.
I heard you need a lawyer, and you know I've gone to law school, so I figured I could help you out.
No, I didn't know you went to law school. I crossed my arms.
Toby must have told you.
Donna chirped. Her red-painted lips curled into a smile.
He's my favorite person. He's more than just a client.
I have nothing to do with Toby. I threw my hands up to the sky. Just leave me alone.
Oh boy,
Donna murmured in a melodic voice.
That's not a good sign.
Her face fell as if looking at a mess she had to clean up. What's not? I asked.
You need to remember, or you can't make it out. I can't afford a coffin for you both.
Donna said. Her voice sounded a bit distorted. I don't understand. I turned on my heel to come face to face with Dexter.
Everything is going to be okay,
he assured me. He placed a wiggly, warping hand on my shoulder. Before I could say anything, his jaw fell to his neck, stretching his reassuring smile into a gawk. His eyes rolled to the back of his head. A crow stuck its head out from inside his unsettlingly extended mouth. I'm afraid of you, I said.
Oh.
It responded disappointedly.
Will you kill me then?
I grabbed the bird's head. It moved out a bit more, exposing its dissected torso.
Give me a yank.
I gasped, jolting awake and panting feverishly. I was happy to be free of that nightmare. I was tangled in a pile of teal sheets, forcefully restricting my legs. I sighed, feeling the tension leave my body. I pinched the bridge of my nose as I stretched my shoulders back. I popped my bones into place as I felt a reflexive yawn rise from my lungs. I attempted to stretch my legs, but found them shoddily bound still. Groaning, I untangled them and threw my legs over the side of the bed. "Good morning," I mumbled to the floor before getting to my feet. I stretched the back of my head, messing with my long, tangled, inky hair. I clumsily opened my door and staggered into the hallway. Dexter and I would always get up to make our parents' breakfast. It was good practice for the future, they claimed. But to my surprise, the smell of eggs and bacon was already present in the house. The warmth of the stove radiated around the house from the kitchen, luring me with all of its smoky comfort. Dexter's door swung open behind me. I glanced over my shoulder at him. His lanky arms reached back behind his head as he stretched in a desperate attempt to shake off sleep from his posture. Completing his action, his brows met to form a confused grimace. He met my gaze, causing me to shrug in response. Together, we cautiously tiptoed down the hall through the kitchen door. To my surprise, there was our mom standing over the stove in her fluffy blue robe. Her hair was meticulously placed in a bun at the top of her head. Her fingers danced along the cabinets in search of missing ingredients to her delicious-smelling breakfast.
"Good morning, dears,"
she greeted without turning around. For once, it was Dexter and I who were startled. "Good morning, Mom," I replied. "You seem to be having a cheerful morning."
"Trying to,"
she responded, throwing a dismissive hand over her shoulder. She spun around with 2 plates of scrambled eggs in her hands. Her drooping eyes glanced back and forth between the two of us before gazing at me.
"You might want to do something about your hair, dear. You look like the creature from the Black Lagoon."
She gestured for me to take the plate. "Good morning to you too, Penny Penny," I muttered under my breath. I took the plate and allowed her to pass me.
"Dexter, stop turning that coffee into milk."
She placed the plate on the table. I realized Dexter had already taken a seat and was pouring himself a cup of coffee from the hot pitcher. He looked up at her like a wounded animal. His hand was still clutched around the half-gallon of skim milk. "Mom, just let him have his breakfast." I placed a hand on her shoulder, both warningly and comfortingly. "We've all been through a lot."
"Yeah, well, he's in the doghouse right now,"
she muttered, squaring her shoulders back. She continued to eye him as if she were surveying an antique's authenticity.
What did I do?
Dexter asked in disbelief. His shoulders met his ears in a tight shrug.
I've only been awake for about 4 minutes.
"Donna called me and said she was on her way here."
She haphazardly pulled out a chair and sat down, picking up her "wait until I'm finished cup number 1 mug in both hands.
"She said something about how you called her, and she wants to do a story on this event."
I heaved a sigh and dug a hand into my scalp. "Really?" Dexter's brows shot to the top of his forehead.
That's not what I said she should do.
He thumped a cupped hand to the sky blue tablecloth as if waiting for a handshake. He closed his eyes, inwardly muttering to himself.
I said I needed someone to talk to.
"Really?"
Mom took on a more sarcastic demeanor, gazing at him with subtle disdain.
"You don't want to help your girlfriend's career at all?"
Not like this.
Dexter said flatly. "Mom, he just needed someone to talk to," I assured her, sitting down. Donna must have just misunderstood. After such a grisly event. Mom glanced at me and back at him.
"Her photographer is coming too. Morgan. You know, from your school."
My heart skipped a beat. "Well," I uttered, incapable of hiding my surprise. I'd be lying if I thought I was prepared to hear that. "Looks like the gang's getting back together."
"As much as I remember, thinking she was a sweetheart."
Mom continued, waving a hand carelessly.
"If she takes one picture of the sea of tissues I sleep in, I'll have her out in the cold faster than you can say, 'Gotcha.'"
I jerkily stabbed my eggs. I grabbed the ketchup bottle and gave it a squeeze. Juice. I forgot to shake the damn thing, and now my eggs were covered in ketchup juice. After a lengthy phone discussion, Dexter had convinced Donna it would be best to meet at a local diner instead of at our home. Morgan, who happened to be eavesdropping, requested I be there to catch up. To my surprise, I actually didn't mind the idea of seeing her again. Usually when it came to my exes, I gave a wide berth. I was anxious, but my curiosity piqued. She always had a knack for keeping me guessing, and the question that had been on my mind was why she wanted to see me so badly, especially since the last I heard she had moved on. But from the moment we stepped into Jerry's family restaurant, I had left my dignity at the door. I even checked over my shoulder, only to see the invisible writing flying in the wind saying, "You're on your own now." A very dainty hand apprehensively raised itself from one of the booths to give my brother and myself a wave. There she was. Tiny, clean-cut Donna with her brown hair tied back in a perfect short ponytail. Next to her on the outside of the booth was Morgan. She twisted her hair, staring at us with wide, uncertain eyes.
Be nice.
Dexter rasped in my ear as he guided me towards them, placing a hand behind my shoulder blades. "Aye, aye, Captain," I heaved, unzipping my winter coat. Dexter greeted both of them with a casual,
"Hey, you two."
And slid into the booth with ease, sitting across from his love. I smiled nervously and tried to mimic the casualness of my sibling, but wound up barely saying, "Hi there."
Hi, you guys.
Morgan giggled nervously. Her smile was a little too broad, and her voice was a little too high for either one to be natural. She squeezed her arms closer to her torso, lightly wrinkling her blue blazer. I smiled warmly. It was good to hear her voice, even if it sounded a bit anxious. It was just a shame she happened to be paired with Donna the exploiter.
I ordered you two a couple of cappuccinos.
Donna beamed.
I hope that's okay.
She leaned forward, allowing my brother to plant a kiss on her cheek.
"Yeah, it's great, sweetheart."
Dexter affirmed, taking his seat. He gave me a pressing look.
"Right, Penny?"
Yuck, I thought. She's seen me actively encourage people to give me black coffee several times. Is it too early for some cheap-ass beer? Great. I forced a smile. Morgan snorted, placing a hand to the side of her face to nonchalantly hide her expression from Donna. I liked knowing Morgan didn't forget how I liked my coffee. Donna's golden eyes fell to the silverware.
So, I'm sorry that your mom isn't in a good place to entertain.
"She's been through a lot."
Dexter replied, nodding.
I'll bet.
Morgan piped up.
You guys must have too.
Let's talk about that.
Donna cut Morgan's train of thought off.
I was hoping perhaps you would like to talk about the tragedy. If, of course, now is a good time.
The three of us stiffened. Morgan bit her lip and pinched her hands together.
"She was a good person."
Dexter stated shallowly.
Oh, I'm sure, honey.
Donna cooed, reaching across the table and placing her hand as far as she could to attempt to give him a reassuring pat.
This must be so hard for you.
Donna,
Morgan meekly interjected.
I think maybe we shouldn't talk about it right here.
Why?
Donna quietly asked with a hint of annoyance lacing her voice.
See those trees out there?
Her head twitched, gesturing to the window next to us. Morgan's frown deepened, and she placed a hand to her forehead. She looked tired. It appeared that her and Donna had had many arguments about this particular subject.
Those trees hold a story.
Donna continued, deepening her brow.
A haunting story. A story that you three probably know better than anyone. Whatever happened in those woods, I bet, is no coincidence in relation to how Emma died. Mystery and gloom has ghosted these woods. Since the three of you have parted, I've heard the stories have only gotten darker.
I kept glancing between her and a thicket just outside. Stories? I pressed, grabbing onto the legs of my pants. Donna leaned closer to me at an angle. Her eyes lolled to the side, trying to piece her timelines together.
About a year before Dexter and I met, I heard the frightening story of a boy that went missing years ago. People said he was an odd boy. He had a strange fascination with dead things specifically. You know, like roadkill. He kept a jar of formaldehyde in his locker, though he had no interest in taxidermy. He would hunt, but would come back empty-handed, or so the rumors told.
Rumors are just exaggerations and nothing more.
Morgan said, playing with her fork.
Well, you would know if that was true.
Donna stated pointedly.
You were there after all.
Her eyes wandered out the window, filling with silent hunger.
I heard that he came into school every day smelling like shit.
Among other things, a cynical voice hissed in the back of my mind. Thinking about that boy gave me chills. When I thought about my father, his image was always distorted. Toby McCarthy, however, I could still see his bony face leering at me from the back of the class. His pale eyes were always shrunken deep into his skull. He wore a hoodie that was just 2 sizes too big, hiding his slight body from sight. He was waxy, as if he had been embalmed. And in his spindly fingers was a brown notebook that he'd never let go. It wasn't his appearance that put me off, however. It was definitely, without a doubt, that pungent, moldy, rotten smell he carried with him every day. It kept me far away from him.
Well,
Dexter began, rubbing the back of his neck.
we didn't know him that well.
A stocky waiter came by, presenting my brother and I with our coffees, completely breaking the spell. The offensive milk steamed into my nostrils. I really hate milk in my coffee. I had hoped that Donna would be distracted with ordering food just long enough for us to figure out a way to change the subject. However, when he finally asked what we would like to eat, Donna said,
Nothing for me, hun. I'm on a roll.
and beamed at him. Damn her.
You know what?
Morgan gave a pinched smile and grabbed her menu.
I could really go for some chocolate chip pancakes right now.
Dexter grabbed his own menu and heaved a sigh.
Yeah, I think that sounds amazing.
Yeah, he was definitely in distress. Dexter normally never eats chocolate anything unless he's in a stressful position. As for me, I was struggling not to be nauseated by both the coffee and the story combo. The waiter, labeled Steven, collected our menus in one giant hairy hand and left.
As I was saying,
Donna continued.
you guys know that Toby was a creepy guy, making what happened to him all the more interesting. This boy, as investigators discovered after his disappearance, had quite the collection of books on animal dissection, animal cloning, and animals that were born from artificial surrogates. They said they found these strange incubators in his basement. I say strange because these incubators were made from organic material. Though of what, they never released to the public.
You're under the impression that they were detectives or forensic investigators and other more official members, I said, leaning over my folded elbows. When really the they is teenagers looking for a good ghost story.
The fact that you're trying to dismiss me tells me there's more to the story.
No, but you're creating a conspiracy theory involving the death of our friend, I retorted. And that can really lead to a lot of acrimonious feelings. Donna's eyes gleamed at me.
If it's all a theory,
She continued, giving me a crooked smile.
why do I have a notebook about human dissection with his name printed inside?
The 3 of us turned to stone, watching as she removed from her pack a small brown spiral notebook. We all knew he had it on him, but never knew what he wrote inside. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I jolted in my seat, causing a few patrons to give me quizzical expressions. Nobody else, save for Donna, seemed surprised by my reaction. With a shaky hand, I yanked it out. I answered, taking a gulp. Yes?
Penny,
It's Mom, I stated breathily.
the most horrible thing happened. The most horrible news. It's so sick.
My mom's voice trembled, and her tremor only increased with each sentence. What? I continued, a hand starting to latch itself around my throat.
They found your father's heart inside of Emma's chest.
My phone fell from my hand. Everything seemed to fall away. I knew she was thinking the same thing as me. My father always had heart problems. And someone made sure of that.